Hello everyone, this is Maffuman coming to the Starcraft Star Battle updates. Looks like we got a whole bunch of new patches that recently. So we're going to go over them kind of quickly, just talk about them, our thoughts in the comments and all that. Looks like we got patches recently starting as of April 26th, 2020, to one day after my birthday, which is fantastic. Thank you, Starcraft gods. Best birthday present ever. Just going to go over these things quickly. As I don't think it has been patched since like 2018, which now makes this the most official, really updated patch recently. There was like other versions like 3.1 or Legacies, but they haven't been patched in like years. So, version 1.72. Arbiter. Modified storms are no longer damages the caster. I think that was already the case, somebody pointed out in the comments, for your allies. No longer damages your allies. Now it no longer damages yourself as well. Obvious benefit for that is Interceptors. I think that's actually pretty fair. I feel like if you're an Arbiter who has to choose if he's wanting to storm himself, you're already in kind of a bad position, because that means that like really heavy Interceptors are attacking you. And I think that's actually going to be the case as we go along towards what I think the game is progressing towards. Battlecruiser. Increased fighter count to 10. I believe that almost everybody else is like 6 or maybe 8. So increasing it to 10 is more cool. Let's talk about that in a bit. Frigate. Modify activation cost of Ripwave warheads to correspond with intended energy requirement. That's a really wonkily phrased way of saying the more upgrades for your attack damage you do, the more it goes up how much energy it costs. So 40 energy is the Ripwave warhead, requirement. If you get one more Ripwave warhead, if you get one more damage on your attack, so you have 1 attack damage, you're gonna go 41, 2, 3, 4. It's not how many missiles you're shooting, it's how much damage each individual missile does. Now, I actually like it that way more. I don't know if lore-wise it makes more sense that you need more energy to like shoot more, but I honestly wouldn't mind if it was both. Because Ripwave warheads and PDD have a really weird yin-yang of which one is more important. The PDD is oppressive in the very beginning because it just blocks 200 shots of everything. You can even upgrade it a little bit. Ripwave warheads, once you get it updated, is just completely ignores it. So the fact that you need a little bit more energy to do more to overcome the PDD is fine. I mean, I've seen kind of an average 13 upgrades maybe, let's say, for frigates, and so that's 13 more energy. Is the difference between 40 energy and 53 energy that big? Kind of. It might at least force frigates to get more energy, and make them obviously then more susceptible to things like feedback, and obviously then you even more of a target for EMP. So I feel like that's a fair way of making it, because Ripwave warheads are still like super useful. They're just now a little bit less than super useful. They're like slightly sub-super. Guardian. Reduce swarm damage healing from 3200 over 20 seconds to 2400 over 20 seconds. Oh, sad Guardian noises. It hurts my Guardian heart, but I accept this. Guardian is my favorite ship. It's also a very tricky ship, and that's why I like it. It does damage going forward, it does damage at a distance, it does not tank. The fact that you could heal almost as much as a Leviathan, which is designed to be a tank, I could see where that could be tweaked down. It's still important. It's still good to have it. It's more Zerg healing than an Overlord has. Overlord, it ain't got nothing. So the fact that you can heal a little bit, I think is fair. And I guess actually technically, no, it should work out pretty well. I was just gonna say like 32 over 20 seconds is gonna be a little bit faster healing than 24. But again, if you're sitting there trying to like overcome a plague or something like that, you still were a little bit too close to begin with. As a Guardian, your job is to play keep away the entire time in kite. So that happens. Version 1.73, the most controversial so far, the ones I'm saying, is Battlecruiser. Add Advanced TAC Fighter upgrade, which gives TAC fighters unlimited release and retarget range. That is super fun. I'm just going to say, I upgraded it. It's 125. You can upgrade in the beginning, obviously, because it costs less than 250 or 275 if you random. And the unlimited release and retarget range is really kind of interesting because even because your interceptors are no longer on the same yo-yo as they were. Now they do, if you leave them alone, they don't just like stay in a position. They do come back to you, and you have to click on them. You can't tell them to hold position. I was thinking maybe you could like set them up, hold position over there, and really punish the farm. But they do come back to you. You just can basically double lane at the same time, and of course there's nothing crazy like you can't warp to them or something like that. So it's a different upgrade, and I feel like this has kind of been the idea for a while. Interceptors. We're gonna just use a generic interceptors term for any ships that a capital ship can shoot out, not just specifically carrier interceptors. Are kind of they're the thing that shows off how good of a player you are. If you're very new, if you use interceptors, you're probably just going to sit there stopped, moving your interceptors around, having them get shot down by capital ships, and then wondering why you don't have money and then are seized upon. So then most people, when they start to learn the game, will not, kind of like ignore interceptors. They launch them out maybe once or twice. But then that just means that they don't get used. So instead of getting rid of them entirely, what the thought process seems to be is to help encourage interceptor play smartly, right? Carrier, and some of them have obviously some really interesting abilities. Carrier, interceptors, that's bread and butter. They go together. They are the thing that makes the carriers arguably one of the best ships in the game and the hardest. I think it's harder than a Void Ray, for instance. Now that the battlecruiser has 10, its interceptors are fancy. So carrier interceptors are fancy. They can be upgraded more. They are upgraded more. Frigate interceptors are fancy. They can get cloak, right? Cloak isn't overpowered. It's just different. It does help farm. And overlords have mutalisks. The mutalisks can be there's a, what's it called? Something carapace that makes them able to shoot all in one glop instead of the little conga line that we normally see, which does help farm. Their little glaive worms bounce. Glaive worms bounce. The little tiny, 3 things. That makes them a little better at there as well. But that was only 3 ships out of the 9, ish. Now battlecruisers have fancy interceptors as well. There was some patch, some version at some time in the past that allowed what I believe were called heavy escorts, which were they were on the Colossus, and they made the Colossus interceptors more tanky. Or is the Dreadnought? One of the others. But it didn't go anywhere. But I think this is kind of along those lines. It's not going to be interceptors battling it out for dominance. I think the capital ships are going to be there, but it's going to be interceptors are distinguishing themselves from farm, and you can farm with them. You're encouraged to farm with them more often. It really helps make the battlecruiser something that gets more money more quickly, and that actually could help it later on in the game. I don't love the terms early game, late game units, but I think that it's understandable that BCs, because they're so varied in what they can do, if you get to a certain point of interceptors as a carrier, it's now considered a quote late game unit because your interceptors are better than whatever the battlecruiser is throwing at you. Now the battlecruiser can get money more easily. What it also does, though, is make things that don't have this ability really punished. So Void Ray. Void Rays are great quote late game units, but their farm ability is pretty low. You have to get close. Maximum range 8 with your beams, maximum range 6 with your little zappy guys, and even though you're solo farming, the battle cruiser might be able to farm easier than you, even if they're not always trying to solo farm. So I actually see this as an interesting dynamic that could help the BC be, really good at farming, and that can help it diversify. So moving on up, we're going to go up to version 1.74, Overlord. Modify Contaminate cost from 175 minerals to 150 minerals, range from 9 to 10, hit radius from 2 to 3, cooldown from 30 to 20, energy cost from 100 to 65, and duration from 20 to 10. So that was kind of like the Price is Right, getting closer, then the little Swedish guy falls over, or whatever, the Alpine guy. So I love Contaminate. It's a great ability. However, as an Overlord, if you get anything but Plague in the very beginning, or maybe, just maybe, on occasion, Side Blast, your entire team looks at you like you have like 5 heads, right? Like, have you never played Overlord, you nub? But Contaminate's a great ability. It does sort of the opposite of Plague, where Plague is actively the Overlord becomes the damage dealer, and makes the opposing team go back quicker because they're hurt. Overlord Contaminate will stop the opponents from farming as much, therefore they get less money. So let's see, 75 to 150 makes it easier to shoot, range from 9 to 10, farther, hit radius more, cooldown shorter, energy cost lower by a lot. Duration from 20 to 10, I think, balances that out pretty well, because if you had hit them earlier, 20 seconds of less farming, 20 seconds of a frigate doing less damage to you, because it can't shoot as often, is pretty great. So I actually like this, because it might make Contaminate used a lot more often. Let's see. Version 1.75 fixes the bottom team's light fighters farm so the original Vikings are used, which incidentally fixes the bug with a shot display on farming weapons to the top team. It cleans it up, so if the ship says that it's one-shot farming, it's one-shot farming, and if it says it's two-shot farming, it's accurate. These types of things are great. I'm really glad that this game has been updated, because things like that were noticeable, and like little bug fixes are important as well. Raven, for version 1.76, Raven, reduce area affected by blackout from 6 units to 5 units. Okay, fine. Blackout's a fantastic ability. Blackout is great, and I feel like if you're already stacked that 6 units are being affected, you're already stacked that 5 are pretty much the same overlapping range. You shouldn't be stacked up that much anyway. So I feel like that's okay, because Blackout's really good. I do like overall most of these changes. I do kind of enjoy the battlecruiser changes. I know. I think we all want new ships, right? I think that might be in the cards, because I mean, look, we went from doesn't let me scroll down, 2018 to like 5 patches in the past week. I guess they're getting kind of bored on quarantine as well. Don't worry, we all are. More time for Star Battle, you know what I mean? But we can refine the game more. Adding new ships is great. I hope it does happen. I really do. There's always a caution of becoming sort of like Heroes of the Storm, where there's like a million new ships, and then it gets like kind of each ship becomes a little bit less individualized. Even Star Armada is sort of somewhat similar. I hope the new ships do happen. I don't mind some refining to the game beforehand. So again, each ship can be more individualized. But that's actually just basically about all. I'm intrigued to see how this game continues to go along, and I hope that new ships do happen, and when they do, they can be refined as well, so it stays as balanced of a game as I really do appreciate this game being. That's going to be about all. Talk about what types of ships you want to see in the comments, what you think about the new abilities, including but not limited to the Battlecruiser one. Make your Status Guardian noises in the comments as well. Press like, press subscribe. We're doing Starcraft Star Battle all the time, and I'm going to go play a game.